and the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, ask the Secretary Treasurer to roll, please.
William Parrish,
Present.
Ann Walker,
Here.
Edward Warner,
Present.
William Pell's present, Scott M. Horwitz.
Aye, present.
Let's go.
All right, we have a quorum. Welcome, everybody, to the general session, 1 o'clock, April 3rd, 2023. Welcome to anybody who's on Zoom, because we are Zooming as well today. Just for information, our next work session is scheduled for Monday, April 17th, 9:30 a.m. here at beautiful Town Hall, and a regular meeting will follow at 1 o'clock. We do have some minutes to accept. It's the meeting of January 9th, 2023.
Make a motion to accept it.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Welker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Trustee Pell made the motion. We did get some communications. It's in everybody's box, so you could read that at your time frame.
To waive the reading of those.
Okay, Trustee Warner makes a motion to waive that reading.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Pell. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we do have some discussions here today, and I see Laura Fabrizio's here from Richards Bay Project, and she's going to be our first.
Aaron is running a few minutes late. I don't know if
Oh, you want to put you on hold there for a
you
minute?
don't mind.
Not at all.
He's the one doing the presentation.
Not at all.
Yep.
That's fine.
We also have a Phragmites presentation, Trustee Welker?
Yes, please. This is via Zoom. So Charles, if you could help us with this. So this is a request on behalf of LISMA, Long Island Invasive Species Management Association, to manage Phragmites within the Long Pond Greenbelt, specifically within Long Pond as well as within Crooked Pond. This has been done previously and very successfully. This is for the management of the Phragmites within the pond. So I believe that we have Abby that is zooming in. Oops, nope, sorry, Bill. Oh,
There's
okay.
Abby.
There you go. Hi, you guys, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. If you'd like to start your presentation, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Hello,
I'm
everybody.
here.
I'm with Abby, too. Abby's here, and I'm here. Let me share my screen. Oops, 1 second. Share screen. Okay. Let me make it full screen. So yes, I'm Bill Jacobs. Thank you for having us today. We have a brief update on the work that we've been doing in Long Pond and nearby ponds in the Long Pond Greenbelt to control Phragmites. I'm Bill Jacobs, Program Manager. Abby is our Conservation Area Manager. Not with us today are Melody Penny and Cassidy Robinson, our other staff. There's 4 full-time staff now at LISMA.
That's
which is
great.
one more than there was last year.
That's great.
And we are a partnership of governmental and non-governmental organizations working together to reduce the threat of invasive species and restore local ecosystems. We have a variety of invasive species that we work on throughout Long Island and Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. And we also have sites that we manage, including 6 invasive species management complexes, of which Long Pond Greenbelt is one of them. We also have the Northwest Peninsula, we call it, as one of the sites, and Montauk Peninsula. Looking at the Long Pond Greenbelt specifically, there are a variety of endangered and threatened species that we're working with the town to protect. And these are some of them: globe-fruited seed boxes directly in the line of fire of the Phragmites at Long Pond. There are also some rare damselflies and some other rare species at the site. It's one of the most biologically diverse areas in New York State. And this is the globe-fruited seed box, which is a state-threatened species. And Phragmites rose within the stands of this plant. This is what the stand looked like in before we cut it, I think, the first time, so this will be 2020 or 2021. This year, Phragmites is growing out in the water. If you look at the blue circle on the left, and that map on the left, that shows some of the previous treatment areas for Phragmites. That blue oval on the left is the approximate location of this site. In 2021, let me stay here for a second, we cut about nearly 1,000 stems of Phragmites at this site here, and I'll have some more on that. This, I was trying to find a picture of the stand that was treated up until 2005 with herbicide on the west side of the pond. I can't find any images except this one that was in my old Nature Conservancy newsletter from around that time. So this stand of Phragmites is completely gone. So there are success stories that happen at Long Pond. All right, this is what we're using now for the underwater cutting. We're using raspberry cane cutters, they're called. They're a blade on a hook, you can see on the left there. And the first year, again, I mentioned 900 something stems. We went out with Ann Wilker, Ann and Day. We went out in 2021. Last year, Jackie joined us, and it's been going very well. We want to continue this cutting. Underwater cutting of Phragmites deprives them of oxygen, and they die within a few weeks. Again, 2021, 910 stems removed. There's Ann with us on the shore. And in 2022, there were only 85 stems there, so it was a huge decrease. Most of the stems were at a little spot that I think we missed the first time. They were small stems, and we might have overlooked them the first time. We do generally Phragmites management at coastal plain ponds. In addition to Long Pond, we're also working on House Pond, which is at Sears Bellows County Park, and Bellows Pond, also at that park. We do spading along the shore. If the plants occur along the shore, we have a spading method that cuts off the top of the plants and wears them out over time with repeated cutting. At Long Pond, we had a 91% reduction in stems the first year, after the first year, which was very good. House Pond, we did a similar treatment. We had an 85% reduction in the first year. And we're going back to Bellows Pond, we're going back to Long Pond, hopefully with your permission to continue that work. We had observed small infestations of Phragmites in Crooked Pond. And the idea of our work here is to find small infestations before they become big ones. They can still be easily manually controlled when they're small, say 1,000 stems or less. So there was some Phragmites we found at Crooked Pond, but the water level was too low. We couldn't get the kayaks out there. We want to try again this year, if that's okay with your permission, get the water levels a little higher to try to cut those stems this year underwater. We have our DEC permit, which is active until 2026. We want to do follow-up monitoring and control if we can. And also we monitor for other aquatic invasive species while we're out there, with the same idea of catching smaller infestations before they become a problem. Are there any questions on that? And thank you for listening.
Of course. Maybe would you, this isn't specific to Long Pond Greenbelt, but perhaps would you speak to the public information session that was discussed in the meeting with the Community Preservation Fund, so that the public knows going forward that there's going to be information, not specifically about Phragmites, but a broader reach?
You're referring to we had talked about a Phragmites workshop?
Yes.
For the public? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're prepared to do a workshop anytime. I don't think we have a date scheduled yet. Abby, did we have a date talked about?
Yeah, no date planned yet, but we could definitely do that.
I know there's a lot of interest in Phragmites generally in the town, and there's some other invasive species of concern also that we'd like to talk about. So we're ready to do that anytime. Could be By Zoom would be the best. It could be during the day, it could be in the evening. Sometimes it's hard to get folks during the day, but it could be during the day or an evening session,
Right.
whichever works best for you.
So we'll look forward to that.
Great.
To setting that up and to you presenting that and there being input from the public and just education of the public as to how beneficial repetitive cutting can be.
Sounds good, yes.
I do have one question. It's Ed Warner. With this repetitive cutting that we do on these ponds, do we have any, thoughts of, adding seedlings of indigenous species to, reconstruct the wetlands as they once were before the Phragmites had taken over? Or is this something that we just let happen naturally?
That's a good question, Ed. We prefer natural regeneration whenever possible. The genetics of some of these rare plants can be very specific to sites and in local areas. So it may be the same species here in Long Pond as coastal ponds in New Jersey or farther up the island. But they may have their own unique set of genetics for this site. We try to have the native vegetation that's on site already reclaim the area. And that worked, so far that's worked very well for us. Even when we, the Nature Conservancy and partners, herbicided that really large stand at Long Pond, if you go there now, it's all native plants that came in on their own. So natural regeneration we prefer to use whenever possible.
Yeah, because I know
And
some.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna add, the nature of these projects are very small stands, so a lot of times there are still a lot of native species intermixed in the Phragmites that we're removing, and that's why it's very selective. So that's just a better chance that that regeneration will take place. And the project Bill mentioned briefly at Bellows Pond, where we're doing spading, we are cataloging the different native plants that are there too, so we can track that change over time as we're doing management.
Yeah, because I know when we look at these projects from the trustee's standpoint and working with consultants on like private property, a lot of times they want to revegetate with certain types of plants. I was just wondering if that was a good thought process, or maybe we should go with something like you're doing and let the natural plants, natural selection take over. Like you say, they're unique to each one of the water bodies that they're in. So
Yeah, if the native plants are there or in the immediate vicinity, it's a good thing to do whenever possible. Every case is different, of course, and if that would work. For example, going back to the stand 2 at Long Pond, when they treated the Phragmites, the applicators used a wand applicator to wipe it on the Phragmites as they went through, so that the native plants were lower than the Phragmites. And so the Phragmites was killed and the native plants below, whatever was there, wasn't touched.
good.
So it's important to consider how the Phragmites is being treated as well.
And are you specifically throughout your region focusing on freshwater bodies and Phragmites especially?
I'd say yes. We have a water body prioritization system that we've set up, and we've prioritized about 700 water bodies on Long Island. Coastal areas, tidal areas along the coast tend to have very large infestations of Phragmites beyond anybody's feasible ability or capacity to control. And some of the coastal stands of Phragmites they provide some benefit, coastal erosion benefits and whatnot. So we tend to not work in tidal areas and focus on freshwater areas.
Okay, great. We will be moving your permit through our process, and maybe if you just keep us in the loop, because maybe somebody else would like to take a paddle with you on Long Pond or on Crooked Pond.
I'd love to get the time to go paddle.
When
That'd be awesome.
When you come.
Paperwork. or
Thank you,
paddling.
guys.
Put a chicken
Yeah,
coop.
well, next
This
time
paperwork,
we'll
we're
be out there, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, see ya.
All right, next discussion, I see that Aaron Tertullian has arrived.
Better late than never.
Laura Fabrizio, Richards Bay Project, you're up next. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
It's just cheap.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
That was Billy Mack was here for the morning session. You got the late session.
This is morning for Aaron.
Yes, he actually said that.
This is morning for Aaron?
This is morning for Aaron.
Well, it depends on your
Just give him to
time
me.
zone.
5 o'clock somewhere.
So we've prepared a little presentation for the board, and want to, first of all, thank you for inviting us to give you an update on our progress, and want to tell you, what a great cooperation it's been over the last 10 years. And we wouldn't be here today without your support, and of course, without the support of Cornell Cooperative Extension. of
Kim was
Suffolk
supposed to
County.
be here, but his wife has COVID, and he thought it would be better if he stayed.
That's a good thing.
So,
Not a good thing for him.
they are, as you know, they are, they're preeminent experts on oysters. So we want to talk about 10 years of volunteers, because as the board is likely aware, we are primarily a volunteer-based organization. We have a few people that we pay to take care of some of our heavier things like our flupsies. But other than that, what we try to do is to engage the public. So we've come a long way, baby, in 10 years. So we're at 3.325 million oysters seeded or planted into Richards Bay, and we're really, really proud of it. From a standing start 10 years ago, we're at 3.325 million. Our goal is to sustainably produce 1 million oysters a year. And we're about 700,000, and we're really, really proud of that.
Good.
Really?
So 2022, really for us, it's a monumental year, 10 years in, and this board has been an integral part of that success. For that, we are very grateful. We did 700,000 oysters in this past year. We have 3 functioning flupsies, which are producing the bulk of our oysters. But we also have 6 oyster farms, which are really an engagement process for us, as well as producing oysters, because our oyster farms are manned all by volunteers, most of them ranging in age between probably 8 and 15. And they, along with their families, are the ones who do the work on a weekly basis. So not only are they producing thousands of oysters, they're learning about it hands-on. We also have 3 oyster beds that we've been seeding over time in sanctuary areas defined by the trustees. And we have 1 oyster reef, which is located off of Richards Island Road. So the other really exciting thing is that we believe we're reaching a sustaining oyster population. And I'm going to get into some details about that, but it basically has to do with we're seeing seed oysters. So, and so we have residents that are engaged and educated, and we have this tremendous partnership with the trustees and Cornell Cooperative Extension.
Aaron, before you go on, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you just speak a little bit about the oyster reef? Like, just expand on it a little bit?
Sure.
Like,
That's a 5-year project. We did that with Cornell Cooperative Extension and the town of Brookhaven. It's off of Richards Island Road. There's a picture of it a little bit later on. That is, we did it with oyster shell bags to create the reef, and then we seeded that reef with oysters. And what we've seen there is nothing short of remarkable. Basically, an area that was a sandy bottom, which had really a transient habitat, now is creating a nursery habitat for all types of juvenile fish. The basic building blocks of the bay are the barnacles and encrusting algae that have filled in interstitial spaces. So that's what that project is all about.
great, that's
We're
great.
actually in our 4th year, so we have 1 more year to
And
fulfill
that's,
the DEC
and
requirement.
yeah, it's a 5-year DEC permit with annual reporting requirements. And the change in water quality is quite dramatic. I mean, I know we have with Sandy in the New Inlet, but we also have, in eastern Murchis Bay by Moneybog, the water quality, and Quantic Bay, even east of that, the water quality is really changed for the better. I mean, sitting on this board for, many years, I see the water quality and the diminished amount of, life in the bay and the loss of eelgrass, and to see it slowly, and as it slowly comes back, the water quality gets better. It just it gets faster and faster, the process. So, we can really, it's truthfully saying that we can push the tides back, which is a wonderful thing.
Well, the reason we picked oysters, there's really 3 reasons. Number one, they're easiest to grow, and volunteers can grow them. Number 2, they're a keystone species, so when the oyster survives, the others survive. And number 3, we had Cornell to help us.
Yeah, it's a great partnership.
So, right to Trustee Warner's point, healthier bays. We're filtering literally billions of gallons of water daily, and we're sequestering thousands of pounds of nitrogen annually. And these calculations are made, based on previous scientific studies about how much nitrogen is absorbed by the oyster in making its shell and also in the meat of the oyster. And we have a really involved community where we have a summer camp-like experience for these kids, and they really like it. And as I said, sustaining oyster population, we have proof of oyster fertility, and we have proof of natural spawning. So we're here to continue to spread the word about oysters. And this is just a partial list of some of our major partners. Of course, Cornell and the trustees, but also the village of Quogue has been a tremendous supporter, as have the villages of West Hampton Beach and West Hampton Dunes, providing us with access to their waterfront so that we can moor our flupsies and service the oysters. And then, of course, we have a great relationship with a number of businesses that help support and underwrite our efforts. And in our neighboring town of Brookhaven, for which we share Murchis Bay, has been a great partner with us as well.
It's good when everybody kind of pitches in, right?
Yeah, it really is. So, not for nothing, but our volunteers work hard. These are actual volunteers at our annual oyster harvesting, where we bring all of the oysters from all the various sites into the marina in West Hampton Beach, and then they're all sorted out. And as you can see, it's freezing cold in September and October, but our volunteers, as evidenced by the heavy jacket, still get out there with their orange gloves and get it done.
Proof that when you embrace the mission, you get a better result from people that are there because it's in their heart to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
We can be a small group with a big heart, and that's
Exactly what it
why
is.
we've been so
Yeah.
successful.
This board knows what a flupsy is, but we put this in here because everybody asks us what's a flupsy. A flupsy is actually invented right here in Suffolk County by Cornell, and it enables us to grow up to 200,000 oysters each in each of the flupsies. And so, as I said, there are major oyster producers, and they're really a very simple apparatus. It's a pump, some pipes, floats, and barrels. And we go from tiny seed oysters that are smaller than the nail on my pinky to 2.5-inch oysters in one season.
It's incredible.
This is what the inside of one of the flupsies looks like. So you walk up to it and it's just looks like a floating dock. Then when you uncork it, there are barrels inside, and a couple of our volunteers who, as you can see, are young and strong and can actually lift those things up.
Backbreaking.
Our oyster farms and reefs are really our engagement process. We do a lot of outreach as well, where Laura specifically goes to almost all of the area schools and talking to students that are 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade.
Even younger, 1st, 2nd grade this year, too.
And they're our future volunteer workforce, so we're real happy to do that. And we're engaging thousands of people annually in doing that. And then in the lower photo, that's our oyster reef. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again, these farms engage families, and you can see the one on the left is beginning when we're at the beginning of the season and everybody's showing up. You can see every size and age group in there. And then at the end of the season, you can see that our kids are really excited about seeing the product of their work. And you know, it's a family affair, I guess. And this is just an example of you know, what these farms look like. You can see there's Kim Tetrault in the middle making a point, and you know, it's really kind of a wonderful thing to watch. I'm the one who takes all the pictures because I don't do any of the work.
I'll second that.
And you know, again, here's springtime when Kim and his compatriots come out and teach. You know, you're looking at 30, 50 people there, all learning about how to start this farm, and that's the group that then takes care of that farm.
And we do about 4 of those during the summer months, and every time we do it, it's a different group of people. We target different areas.
So we and as you said, we have 5 of those, right? 5 farms?
Yes.
5 farms.
We're going to ask for a 6th one today.
Okay. So yeah, 3.325 million oysters raised. I mean, that's pretty impressive, quite frankly. You know, the best thing about that is that, you know, we have a reasonably good survival rate. It's over 65%, and you know, each one of those oysters is filtering 50 gallons of water a day, and we've in this past year we've sequestered over 2,000 pounds of nitrogen, which, as you'll learn in a minute, means a whole bunch of homes. But this is, for us, the most exciting part. We're helping to make baby oysters. And this is the key to our project, to make it sustaining, that the oyster population itself begins to grow. So we've noticed this over the last 2+ years. But last year, our scientist, our lead scientist, Dwight Sergan, who lives right in West Hampton, and as well as Kim and Greg Rivara, have gone out and examined the oysters, have found them to be fertilized, have gone back after the breeding, found that those eggs have all been released, and then now we're starting to see, you can see in the micrometer, we've got baby oysters setting right on the shell, which is exactly what nature does. It's billions of gallons of water. It's crazy. It's 61 billion gallons of water. That's a lot of water.
A lot of water.
Of course, Murchis Bay itself is about 60 billion gallons of water, and it changes about half that volume every tide. So we still have a lot of work to do. But here's the interesting thing about nitrogen. Oysters sequester nitrogen in their flesh and in their shell. And so we are actually part of the 3-legged stool of reducing nitrogen in the bay. The first one obviously being reducing the amount of nitrogen that goes into the ground through the IA systems. The second part is preventing that nitrogen that's in the groundwater from getting into the bay. And the third part is, of course, treating and sequestering the nitrogen that's already in the bay. So we're really excited about this. This has been, as you can see, a geometric increase over time. Great. And so what's our future? Well, our future is clear. Oysters are cleaning the bay, they're making the bay healthier, and we need to do more.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Well, definitely the pun intended. That's our favorite line.
Oh, go back over here. Okay. So, what's the problem? You know, problems have solutions. So first we identify the problem. And the problem is that our water bodies are still classified as impaired. The New York State, Southampton Town, and the EPA have all listed Murchis and Quantuck Bay as impaired waters. As you know, it's a big focus of the Water Quality Improvement Program, and the principal culprits are nitrogen, fecal coliform, and low dissolved oxygen. Obviously, dissolved oxygen being really important for life. And what's the solution? The solution is existing Southampton Town trustee sanctuaries and producing more oysters by combining a second Flupsy to an oyster relay program, which is, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on, and then Laura's going to go into some details. So, at the Quogue Village dock, and here we have former Mayor Sartorius and two of the trustees, Randy Cardo and, help me out.
It's okay. A second trustee.
Second trustee. So we have an existing Flupsy there. We've had it there for about 5 years. The village, the village has been really helpful, and what we've spoken to the village of Quogue, and they are willing to host a second Flupsy. And so our plan on that Flupsy is to dedicate that Flupsy to Quantuck Bay. And this is what we envision. So you can see the Flupsy location in the lower right corner. That's at the end of Quogue Neck Lane. That's where we have an existing one and where we'd like to put in a second one. And then if you'll see the navigation channel, which is also where the tide comes in and out, and you can see to the south of that channel, there's a reasonably extensive sandy shoal. And that's just perfect for oyster setting. But even better, that's where the biggest currents are. And so they will disperse that seed throughout the entire eastern portion of the bay. So what we propose is to do a second Flupsy, raise about 200,000 oysters, and seed that particular area. And the beauty of that is not just the physical feature of a sandy bar and the strong current, but the entire bay is a sanctuary as per this board's proclamations. So, we need you. And, you can see that we're a year-round project because, as you notice, the youngster on the left is wearing a Santa costume. So he was out there in front of Island Surf with his two compatriots, helping educate people about our project and the work in helping make the bays healthier. But we need all types, and certainly we need the trustees. And we have 10 years of thanks, and this is a reasonably complete but not total picture of the kind of support that we've gotten, which crosses municipal, individual, corporate, and just a real community effort. And you can just see by the names up there, we have some tremendous local businesses that are supporting us, and all different types of businesses, from coffee companies to to sportswear. And also we want to thank especially the Island Outreach Foundation, who has been a stalwart supporter of ours since the very beginning, without whom we would not have the funds to execute this program. So with that being said, we're here to help continue to save Merchants Bay Project one oyster at a time, and we'd love to get your continued support in doing that.
Well, I really want to thank you guys. I mean, getting community buy-in for any project is huge, and you guys really accomplished that. I mean, you can educate adults somewhat, but when you bring the smaller kids into it, and then they bring it home to their parents really seem to, clamp onto this, and I think it's a wonderful thing that you guys have done and are still doing and continue to do, and you guys have had some great success. So, I mean, personally, as a bayman and a wild harvester, one of the things that I was hoping for through this whole program was to have a natural set. One natural set will completely dwarf what you've done in the past, but it will show the greatest success for the project.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that, and we gratefully acknowledge all of our cooperators, especially this board.
And you've been especially supportive of me through my learning curve, and I really appreciate that.
Well,
Thank you.
I love educating people about the water.
And it's been a challenge, but we've
10 years, right?
muddled,
10 years.
Yeah, we've muddled through it. Thank you.
10 years. But expanding is a good thing too, and Quantuck Bay,
glad you said
as we know, was always classified as the epicenter of the brown algae, and the last couple summers it wasn't there. So now we can maybe use that water body to expand your program. I know oysters, the area that you have chosen was an area that the Baymen's Association used to put oysters when they would relay them out of Mecox Bay from the polluted water, because it had a good flow of water, the survival rate was excellent, and it was nice hard bottom, so when the oysters grew, they've become very marketable and like a flat oyster, so, I think it's a really good area. You have a formal proposal?
We have a couple of things that we'd like to propose to
Okay.
go forward.
You ready for that?
I
have
am
one,
ready for
too.
that. First of all, we'd like to invite, oh, I'm sorry,
I
Joe.
think in the next few years that someone else should be taking the pictures.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Other than Aaron?
yes. And we can get him in the pictures.
You're trying to get me to work?
Oh, so we can get him in the pictures, yeah. Well, he's got a plan, because it doesn't make him obviously able to work at the same time, so.
Well, I think he could. Jeff, you can be taking pictures.
Well, yes.
Billy,
He puts me-
we could purchase him some nice oilers so he won't
Yeah.
be dirty and gloves, so he won't get his hands cut up.
You don't want me
We'll-
taking pictures. I'm the
We'll take it
worst
out of our
photographer.
budget, we'll all chip in.
I bet you would.
I think Bill and Mac would even help us.
Billy would like to see him work, too.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave this right alone.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, well, first, we'd like to invite you all to our beach cleanup, and as you can see from the invitation or the poster that was in your folders, we've gotten quite a crew this year, so it's a real community event. The high school's involved, we have Relic involved, we've got VHW involved, so it's gonna be a really big event, and we've expanded our territory from Cubsock all the way down to Lashley this year, so we're hoping to clean both the bays and the ocean, so we're happy about that. Next, going along with what Aaron was saying and Ed, we're looking to do about 20,000 clam seeding in Quantuck Bay. And Ed suggests doing it, I'm sorry, it's not marked on yours, but right at this tip, Ed, if you want to talk about it, you can.
Yeah, James, can you pull up the slide and show Quantuck Bay? Because you can actually go back. Right there, right above that white little bar there that shows with the oysters and clams and intercoastal, there's a sandbar. The trustees back in the 70s put some rocks and substrate down there, and we planted some sea clams there that we had gotten from Cornell over like 10 different years. We'd actually grow them in Quantuck and put them there, and we put about 100 bushel of chowder clams. So that's a really good area. It's got an excellent flow of water. The water comes out from the headwaters of Quantuck, across that flat, out through the Cork Canal, and it's got the reverse, water coming from the Cork Canal. So it's got a really good flow of water, and a good survival rate there, good growth rate when the water was clear. I think it's a really good area. It's easy to, manage. You can see it right from the road end, not that we're thinking any poaching is going to go on, but you got a good visual on it, so it's a good area to watch over.
Yeah.
And I know the shellfish have grown very well there.
South of the navigation channel.
North of the navigation.
North of the
channel.
navigation.
There's
Just
a little-
that little bar right
that
there.
little
I see, yeah,
sandbar
yeah,
there.
north of the channel.
Yeah,
yeah.
and back in the 50s.
Scott, you might see it better on the map.
Yeah, back in the 50s and 60s, the trustees
There's a little
actually
pen mark.
got clams from Jamaica Bay, and they were one of the first, towns to do shellfish relays in the state. So, and it's something we used to take clams from the Riverhead River and put them in Quantuck. So it's something that we will continue to do, and with good water quality, I think we should have great success there.
So you need a resolution.
Yes,
Cornell is all ready to go, we just need your resolution.
They're making a resolution, we're making a resolution.
we're gonna make up
Coordinates.
coordinates and to make it a sanctuary. We just need, coordinates for the proposed hard clam sanctuary.
Yep.
Okay, I'll get
GPS
that over to you guys.
coordinates.
And then GPS coordinates for that little flat on the other side where we're gonna put the oyster sanctuary.
Okay. Yeah,
It's easy, you just click on
Sure.
Google Earth and it's.
Well, yeah, we'll need all the GPS coordinates.
Sure.
That's what we have James in my office.
Plotted on the
Yeah.
chart, that way it's clear.
And then we can put it on our website, and you can put it on,
Sure.
your website and show everybody in the public
Let
what's going on.
everybody know
Absolutely.
it's off limits and what's going
Yep.
on.
The next is what Aaron had touched on about the Quag Dock, where we want to put the second Flupsy there. Not only obviously is it a benefit to have more oysters, but we're also taking advantage of the labor force and not needing to get a double labor force. big, strong guys are really hard to come by these days, so they're willing to do an additional Flupsy as long as they can stay in the same location. So we thought that that was a win-win for everybody. And as Aaron mentioned, Mayor Overquag has already approved that. So we just need your approval, and we're set to go on that one. Okay. Next, we have worked with a private homeowner in Remsenburg. There's another one of these maps in your folder at 40 Basket Neck. He's got a private floating dock, and he has agreed to let us put a oyster farm there. Not a Flupsy, a farm. Our guys have gone out there, and it meets all the qualifications. We can send you over what other information you may need, but we would start off with just a 6-cage farm and see how it worked. And
Right, that one send over for us to look at.
Sure.
Yeah, that one send over for us to do a little bit more due diligence on,
okay.
and take a look at.
And I had also recommended if we didn't want to put it in the open bottom, they
Yes.
have a lovely dock there, and we can actually situate it right underneath the dock.
Which might be a great
Which
idea.
Right.
will allow the cage, I mean,
Yeah. Let's take a
so,
harder
so
look at
it
that.
What do you-
gives options.
And Scott, what do you need specifically? If you
No, we just let the board just take a look at it.
Okay,
This way
fine.
we're not just, we don't want to just
you know,
put
And
something
then-
together for us to look at.
And then lastly, I've spoken with Ed about this, and actually the two Eds, Ed Romaine and Ed Warner. Last year, the Brookhaven town did what we call scallop collectors, and I believe there's pictures in your folder in the Brookhaven town, and they proposed to us that we try to coordinate with you and do some in Southampton. When I spoke with Ed and Greg, we thought maybe we would do 4 to 5 of them, starting from like where Swan Island is, east of Swan Island, and put 4 to 5 of them out. Ed, do you wanna-
Yeah, I mean, it would sister up what we did, we put scallops from Cornell up there this year. I have had conversations with some baymen from Brookhaven, and they had a pretty good scallop harvest in Brookhaven town this year, talking to some of the local baymen on our side of the town line. There are bug scallops up there, basically all the way from Spearing Point all the way to Swan Island. So, I mean, there are scallops there, and maybe we can catch some of them. I know we did a project with Suffolk County and the Baymen's Association in Cold Springs Harbor, or Cold Spring Pond, with onion bags and floats and bricks, and we caught almost 100,000, animals in like, I think about a dozen of these collectors. So they work very efficiently, and if you don't catch them, you just take them out, dry them, and you can reuse them next year. But I think it would give us a good, pulse on what's going up there in Merchants Bay as far as scallop, because we know in the Peconics, the scallop industry has been decimated by a parasite. None of the scallops make it past, 2¼ inches to be harvestable. This is the first scallops in Brookhaven that have been harvestable in the state in 3 years. So maybe the water quality isn't as bad, maybe it's a little cooler, maybe the scallops have some resistance to the parasite, but I'd like to see what is in our waters with these collectors. And we've done it in the past, and it's worked pretty efficiently. And it's pretty simple, and it's not a big cost.
That sounds great. I
Yeah.
I remember as a kid scalloping on the flats there. And that was a long time ago.
I remember in the
Yes.
60s going up to my
We're not going there either, Aaron.
So,
Yeah, that was a great place. Biggest bay scallops I've ever seen.
Yeah. They were fabulous.
Yeah.
You go by and scoop them up with a
Scoop 'em.
net. You just
Yep,
shuffle your feet and they jump right out.
yep.
Getting hungry.
and then just lastly, I want to just reiterate what Aram said about the educational programs. It really is enlightening and heartwarming to see how excited these kids really get when we come to the school. And we get thank you notes. We got a video this year from a kid that was so impressed by what we did that he started a GoFundMe with his allowance, and he's trying to raise $100 to give us, because $100 will put like whatever it was, 10,000 or 10,000 gallons of water it'll filter. So it was really adorable. Of course, he did use the wrong numbers, which Aaron
Okay,
pointed out. He was
right.
5. But he had the heart of what was going on, and it was really great. So even
That's
if we
great.
reach one person, it's really worth it.
That's great. Great
So
program.
that's it. That's all we have.
What are you guys doing with the
Sure.
shell, with your shell?
We don't have any
We
shell.
don't, yeah.
Everything goes in the bag. So, and whatever, oysters don't make it,
You leave
they
them.
stay right there. So
Yes.
they're
Help
the
with
right
help with
substrate.
ocean acidification,
Yeah.
right? Combat
That and clutch for the,
clutch for
Right.
substrate for future generations.
Exactly, yeah.
Makes an important thing.
So
Yeah,
the
it really is.
bagged shell
Part
that
of the
you
process.
used for your
Oh,
wreath,
yeah.
where did you get that?
We got that from Cornell.
We get that from Cornell.
Okay,
Yeah, that's hard to come by.
I know.
They dry it for
Yeah, they
a
have it.
season in
They're
advance.
sure
You have to
So-
season it.
So
Yeah.
that's my question, because, is it Seatuck Environmental that has a half shell for habitat program
Right.
that they're starting interfacing with
And
restaurants?
we work with them, and we're trying to get some of their shell.
But also to
You can buy
encourage,
it up north, but the guy has to truck it down.
Oh, really?
but also to encourage
tractor
our,
trailers, $3,000, that's what we
You
bought
know,
it for.
gone are the days where you had the oyster shell driveways.
Well,
Right,
You have to remember when there
Nice.
was a scallop harvest, we had endless piles of scallop shells in the transfer stations or dumps.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore
No.
to pull from.
but my point is that our local restaurants that are serving oysters can be interfaced with and just should be encouraged and educated on this point. So maybe not that you guys are doing that, but just in your work, just bringing that up and pointing that out to them.
We've actually talked to Bowie One about possibly doing something like that,
Yeah.
but, it was tough with the whole COVID thing.
Yep.
Sure.
But now that that's kind of hopefully gone forever, we can reapproach them on that subject.
Right.
Half Shells for Habitat is one of our cooperators.
Ah, great.
So, and we actually did a
I
program with them
think- Yeah.
this past fall. So we view our role there as connecting them with the restaurants.
Perfect. Yeah, that's
Check
great.
plus for you today, Aaron.
Well, he gets a half a minus for being late.
I'm gonna look the other way.
I keep her.
Any other questions?
No, great, guys.
Thank you for your time,
Thank you.
and we'll get that information out
Thank
to
you
you in
very
the
much.
next couple
I
of days.
do have a question for Aaron, being that you oversaw the North Sea beach colony restoration with the sand and everything. Can you give us a little update, and maybe you can explain to the people in public the littoral drift in that area, how the tides and currents move the sand, in what direction they move the sand in? Or, I don't know if you're prepared to do that, or maybe at a later time, but
Well,
I
I'll
know
give you
it's-
something brief, but I'd be happy to come in and give you, we sent the board our annual report, which was only 157 pages, so I'm sure that you read that immediately. But the short story is that we've done 2 beach restorations at North Sea Beach Colony. The last one being in June of this past year. And then we augmented that one in June with 500 cubic yards of olivine sand to absorb carbon dioxide. We're having tremendous success on both fronts. The beach itself is in very good shape. It's got a high tide beach of about 25 feet, which, if you remember, there was no high tide beach 4 years ago. The residents are really happy. People who, couldn't walk their dogs down to the point now can walk their dogs down to the point, so that's become active again. And the olivine is sequestering carbon dioxide. We have a tremendous monitoring program, which is actually kicking off this coming month. To continue, we have a 2-year monitoring program through Project Vesta. And we've observed the carbon dioxide being absorbed. We're absorbing about 9.9 tons of carbon dioxide per year in that project. The challenge there is that sand moves primarily from east to west, although there are some reversals in the summer that go back towards the inlet. We've had a great relationship with Suffolk County Department of Public Works in coordinating moving sand from the inlet dredging onto North Sea Beach Colony. That was, without them, we wouldn't have had a project, so that was a really an important relationship. And as you may be aware, the president signed a declaration of emergency for the Christmas and January storms, and it turned out that beach qualified.
Oh, good.
So we hopefully will get some federal money to help restore that.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna go to public portion. So if there's anybody here at Zoom and here, I see Mr. Jim Williams, you'll have to come up and take a few minutes. Introduce yourself, sign in.
Good afternoon. My name's, wow, sound too good. My name's Jim Williams, 100 Big Fresh Pond Road, Southampton. Sorry, I got to disagree with Aaron about the drift there in front of North Sea Harbor. I come and go out of the inlet 3 or 4 times a week on my own personal boat, and every time it blows northwest, from the day that project was finished, the outside bar encroached more and more and more. Your course was pretty much northeast when you came out. A month after, it was more and more, and now you have to run a complete easterly course to get out of there. All the spoils that were put up on the beach migrated, every time it blew northwest, migrated back to the east, and as you've seen in the photos, filled in the channel and created an incredible delta and sandbar out in front. So, kindly request, I know you folks are working on getting it dredged again, but if there was some way we could expedite that and not have it get lost in the shuffle, I know there's other projects, but this seemingly is a direct result of the sand getting pumped to the west. Used to get 2, maybe 3 years out of each dredge project before it had to get dredged again. This year, it get closed up worse than it was last year. So, not to split hairs on the why, but it's a bad situation right now. And as we know, there's a pump out boat in there. There's an oyster farm, North Sea fireboat, Southampton Town Bay Constable vessel. There's a town marina, town launching ramp, multi-million-dollar boat marina rental business on the north end, plus homeowners surrounding that need to get in and out of North Sea Harbor. So, just want to put my 2 cents in.
Yeah, we're
Thanks
aware.
a lot.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're aware. We did send our, concerns and your concerns, and the rest of the concerns that you voiced, we did send over there. The constables did an excellent job. It's some drone footage and additional information that was requested by Suffolk County Department of Public Works. We did forward that a couple days ago, I guess.
This week.
Last week, yeah, they have what they need. They did run a landing craft in and out of there, so they are, they have their own, visual and navigational assessment
Yep.
that they did as well.
Excellent.
So we've done everything that we could to get everything that you just said in the forefront, in the hands of the decision makers. I mean, we control the priority dredge list, and it's on there front and center on a regular basis, and their screening committee, along with the other regulatory authorities, have to make the determination on how to hopscotch around the entire county. But I know Trustee Warner works hard in his interface with them as well.
Absolutely.
Any opportunity that I have, I do the same.
I know we went through this whole thing last year. I'm
Yeah, no,
intimately aware of how
We
things
hear you
work
loud and
then.
clear. We've done, we're doing our job, I guess, is the message to the people in the town and
We're just
yourself.
trying to be a little ahead of schedule on it. This
Absolutely.
Jim, you can have this piece of paper, and it pretty much tells you what we've done and where we were at.
Maybe, can we give a bit of a timeline, just even a loose one, or some of the restrictions around the dredging? Maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah, I
as
mean, we
well.
did-
I know that's problematic,
Yeah.
but it's helpful to have that information out there, I think.
Well, I mean, just from a broad perspective, I mean, there's dredge windows on all of these, on these projects, and there are concerns from various different regulatory authorities about birds and spawning fish, obviously. And, there are, groups of people that, sit around and try and figure out how logistically to best handle, the amount of dredge time that's available, and where to show up when, and, how to deal with what need. It's really,
It's a lot of moving parts.
it's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot harder. And before COVID, we used to go to these meetings up in Riverhead, on a pretty regular basis, and, there would be 15 or 20 people there gathered around a giant speaker of people coming in from other, regulatory authorities that are trying to solve these issues, because, you have limited budget, of course. You have actually limited time, limited window that you can do this stuff, and that's before you end up with, weather events that kind of hinder your abilities and mechanical breakdowns. I know the counties went and, they bought a bunch of new equipment to try and better, serve this, and, we work with them as best as we can. We'll keep advocating respectfully. We really appreciate everything that they do. And we hear you loud and clear, and we appreciate your public input for you to take your time to come down here, 1 o'clock, on a Monday, to get on the record and get, your voice heard is really helpful and important, and I personally appreciate that. And I know, other people, they call me, they send letters, they send emails, and, we're doing everything that we can. I don't know if you want to add
No,
anything.
it's priority one on the spring dredge list, as I just handed you the paper, as you can see. Normally, this would have been vetted back in January with the Army Corps and the DEC, looking at a special dredge window for the spring. The meetings don't happen quite so frequently as they used to because of COVID and other people working from home, so it's, the process is there, but it's kind of broken up. So, as soon as we hear about there's an issue, we send the Bay Constables, do depth soundings, a site report, boom, it's sent right off to the county. It's gone to, Lyota's office. Fred Thiel and Palumbo are all involved, but, it's as soon as we hear it. If we had seen back in November that this was going to be a pending problem, we could have actually gotten ahead of it, but with the winter storms and the one northeaster, 3 days later another, and the severity of the storms and the height of the tides pulling off a lot of material where we put it above the spring mean high tide, it gets pulled back in the system very quickly. We can't, foresee that, but we try to manage the projects as best as we can. And to the county's credit and to our board's credit, we get more dredging projects done in this town than anybody else out here.
There's no doubt.
And I'm proud of it. I mean, and we work hard.
You should be, and I know you deal with the county a lot. I appreciate it.
We have James Duryea in our office with the birds and the red knots, the plovers and the least terns, and, we have our environmental stewards out there looking for the birds, and if we need some information, it's right in James's, right there.
And touching on something, some of these projects fall right to our ability to be able to have these plover stewards or red knot stewards or people that are going to be there to oversee so that we can be in compliance with all the requirements from the regulatory authorities. Otherwise, everything that you just mentioned throughout our entire town, that whole ecosystem shuts down. All that commerce, everything that you say, it all shuts down. It could boil down to having the proper people there to be overseeing whether or not there are red knot birds in the vicinity to make a determination on whether or not that project can keep moving forward. So there are so many moving parts that affect such a huge cross-section of this town. And it's very refreshing to have someone like yourself come in.
So, all right, I want to thank you all for your time and effort as always.
The timeline part of it, I just want to expand upon the fact that the new dredge that was purchased by the county accomplishes that work within a much shorter period of time. So although it may feel like it takes forever to get it there, once it gets there, it was within 4 or 5 days.
And it pushes the material down in
That's the
one
one they
shot.
used last year, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was definitely a
Yes,
big
that's
improvement.
That's a
They
new
got new
piece of
equipment.
equipment, so.
And the window, the dredge window that we're talking about, the Army Corps and the DEC, that they have 2 different windows. They have to have a meeting amongst themselves and come up with a 2-week window that they both agree on. Just to let you.
Oh, I know, I was in
think
this,
you're aware.
I was in this last year too. I
Yeah.
know. Great.
So,
Thank you all very
All right,
much.
Jim.
Thank you. All right, anybody else want to address the board in public portion? Charles, anybody on Zoom with their hand up?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so that being said, I think we can move on to the application for permits part of the meeting. The Board of Trustees hereby waives a public hearing on the following applications because it's determined that the following projects do not raise a significant degree of public interest or public input is not needed to aid in the decision-making process. Trustee Resolution 2023-96, Modification application of Stephen J. LaSalle, 29 Ogden Lane, East Village of Quogue, New York, Suffolk County, tax map number 902, 14-1-30. This was vetted at work session. I recommend its approval.
I'll give you a second.
Seconded by trustee Pell. All in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-97, application of Rams Island 3 LLC, 45 Ram Island Drive, Tuckahoe, tax map 900-109, 1-3, body of water, Sabonic Creek.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
I second.
Yes. Trustee Resolution 2023-98, application of Daniel Marvin Sambruski, 309 Norfolk Road, North Sea, tax map 963.9.2, body of water, North Sea.
I'll second that one.
Seconded, trustee Warner. All in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-99, modification application permit number GP 000251, Patrick J. Pennant of 191 Shore Road, North Sea, tax map 976-2-23, body water, North Sea Harbor.
I'll second that.
Seconded, trustee Warner. All in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-100, renewal application, the first one of 361 Beach Road LLC, 361 Beach Road, Hampton Bays, New York, Suffolk County, tax map 900-364-1-3, body of water, Shinnecock Bay East. This is a renewal, and I recommend we approve it.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Pell. All in favor?
Aye. Trustee Resolution 2023-101, application of NTS Mecox LLC, 74 Point Mecox Lane, Bridgehampton, New York, Suffolk County tax map 900-134-1-41.2, body of water, Swan Creek. This is for continuation of hand cutting of the common reed Phragmites along the shoreline. I'd like to recommend its approval.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Warner. All in favor?
Aye.
2023-102. This is an application of Michael and Marissa Leister, 541 Main Street, Quogue, New York, Suffolk County tax map number 900-378-1-15.1, body of water, Quantuck Bay. I move for its approval.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Pell. All in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-103, application of Christopher and Susan Walters, 21 Baycrest Avenue, West Hampton, New York, Suffolk County tax map number 900-357-1-33.2, body of water, Beaver Dam Creek. I move for its approval.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Pell. All in favor?
Aye.
And then Trustee Resolution 2023-104, it's a modification application of GP 000358, Bernard S. Hodes, 139 Jessup Lane, Village of West Hampton, Suffolk County tax map number 905-10-5-44, body of water, Robinson Canal off of Merchants Bay. I move for its approval.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Pell. All in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-105, application of 6 Holly Creek LLC, 6 Holly Lane, Remsenburg, New York, Suffolk County tax map number 900-375-2-4, body of water, Fish Creek. I move for its approval.
Second.
Seconded, trustee Pell. All in favor?
Aye. Trustee Resolution 2023-91, this is for a road review application at 1230 Noyak Path LLC. This was discussed at road review meeting in the previous month, and we are waiting for a report back from the town engineer and the highway department, so I'd like to table this.
Second that.
Seconded, trustee Warner. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is tabled.
Trustee Resolution 2023-106, this is to authorize the president to sign a letter of authorization granting permission to Cornell Cooperative Extension to install a tidal depth gauge on Poxabock Pond. I'd like to recommend its approval.
Second.
Second, trustee Warner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-107, this is to authorize the opening of Mecox Bay and Sag Pond. So we wrote a resolution back in the fall that authorized openings as needed from September 1st until April 1st, which is the non-piping plover season, and this then pushes that forward and goes from April 3rd up and into September 4th during the plover season. So I'd like to recommend its approval.
Second.
Seconded trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Trustee Resolution 2023-108, Budget and Finance. Warrant 06 of 2023, resolved that per recommendation reviewed by the town comp control, the following vendor payment warrant of 06 be approved for the amount of $11,796.50. Barnwell House and Tires, $512.50. Card member service, $2,412.22. InterScience, $157.50. Lupa Equipment, $143.96. Riverhead Building, $698.80. Tris, $7,331.84. And WB Mason, $539.48. A total of $11,796.30.
I'll second it.
Seconded trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Here, this is the revised stuff with the walk-on. As I handed
All right,
out
so
to you guys
I'd like to make a motion to walk on a resolution.
Second.
Seconded trustee Pell, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so this is the walk-on resolution right here, right? So we have an authorization to transfer funds to cover a shortfall of money necessary to fully fund where the shortage actually ends up coming in is at the piping plover program for our part-time salaries. We already have the other employees that are in place. Right now, we're at the point in time where in order for us to be able to continue maintaining the highest degree of public access and able to have projects like Mr. Williams was talking about, and we were talking about dredging projects, we're gonna need plover stewards, lease turn stewards, red knot stewards, sea beach amaranth stewards. We're gonna need to have these people to comply with all federal and state regulations. So it's necessary for us to have to take an infusion out of fund balance off to the town so that we can fill a shortfall.
And we have the same people, not the same people, but we have the same program year after year.
Right, it's been a program that the trustees have had for a very long time, and maintaining integrity in any program is imperative.
Yeah, I do have one question. It's specifically the properties located along the Atlantic shoreline, and it's also the rest of the Peconic Bay and every other, body of water we run these programs, specifically talking about with Aram and Mr. Williams about North Sea Harbor. We have plover monitors that go down there to oversee least turn colonies at Todd Point and some plover nesting. So we would include those beach stretches of beach.
Okay, so let's amend this then. So we're gonna say Atlantic shoreline and all shorelines throughout the town of Southampton where federal, state
Yes.
regulation is required?
Yes, I would like that to be included.
Okay, so we're gonna go with all shorelines.
You need a motion to amend?
We'll get to that.
Oh.
Let them get done writing.
Don't
Right.
rush it. The birds are here.
It's important. We just discussed this about the dredging and the projects.
If you don't do it right, we get a letter in the mail.
That's something there.
All right, so.
All right, so you want me to make a motion to amend this?
I'd
You
make
want-
a motion to amend as, right
Scott.
here.
All right,
Yeah, Scott reads it.
okay, so you wanna second that motion?
I'll second that motion.
So trustee Pell seconded it, we all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, so it's an authorization to transfer funds to cover a shortfall of money necessary to fully fund pipe and plover programs, part-time salary in 2023. Whereas the Board of Trustees have for decades conducted the federally imposed inspection and sequestration of properties located on the Atlantic shoreline and all shorelines throughout the town of Southampton where there is a federal and state requirement for nests of piping plovers
And lease turns,
and lease turns and red knots and sea beach amaranth.
right?
Whereas the town of Southampton has provided the monies needed to conduct the program by including an amount in the trustees' budget pertaining to the hiring of part-time and seasonal employees. Whereas the trustees' operating budget for the 2023 fiscal year did not include sufficient money to fund the budget line assigned to part-time and seasonal employees. And whereas the town of Southampton has declined to approve an amended appropriation to the Board of Trustees to correct the situation, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approves additional funding of $49,000 from the Board of Trustees of Freeholders Commonalty, contract GLSN-99-8790-00, 6401-0000, and reimburse the town for additional part-time employees hired for the 2023 budget year. Resolved that this budget transfer shall be considered a one-time appropriation. There will be a $49,000 financial impact to the fund balance of the trustees.
I will
I have
say-
one thing on this.
Okay.
If this money is not used completely, that it's returned to us.
Yes, we will have to oversee that, Bill, but I agree with you. We put money into an account that isn't used by the end of the year, and it's a remaining balance, either it should be rolled over for the next year or returned to the trustees' GL account, so read.
I concur. If the trustees are submitting fund balance to the town for these purposes that benefit the people in the entire town, if it is left over in that line because people leave, they go back to college or whatever it is that they do, it shouldn't be a donation to the town. It should come back to the trust, okay? I think that's fair.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so seconded by trustee Pell. Are we all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. James, we can hire these people that we need, so the funding will be there, so that we can continue to do what we gotta do to keep this town
Get on the phone.
running the way it's gotta run. I know this was important to you. We were kinda in a holding pattern. And trustees, we got some work to do.
Yes.
Okay, I think at this point in time, is there anything else? I know it's been a busy day between work sessions and everything else. Is there anything else that the trustees need to, in open session before we go into executive session? Is there a discussion that,
Just the osprey nest on Common Point has been restored to its spot, and the birds can nest there now. I
Okay.
want to thank the Marine Maintenance for participating in that effort today.
that's great.
And
Thank you.
also want to yell out to the marine maintenance crew, the couple new osprey nests they put up in West Neck. All three of them have birds making nests or sitting on eggs right now.
That's great.
Say thank you very much. I know they appreciate that.
And thank you for spearheading the program, trustee
Yes.
Pell.
Yeah, ospreys are important.
Anybody else, trustee Parrish? You
No.
good? Trustee Welker, you got a lot of stuff going on today, right?
I have a couple things I'd like to mention. So the Mecox Cut was finally opened March 13th, a couple weeks ago, and Sag Cut was opened March 28th, this past Tuesday. We try and time the opening of those cuts so that we open them as close to the beginning of piping plover season as possible, so that in a perfect world, they stay opened, and there's good tidal exchange and therefore good water quality in both of those water bodies as we go into the summer season. Unfortunately, both of these cuts closed over the weekend with large storm surf on Saturday and Sunday. However, the good thing is that even though they closed at a low water level, so that's at least good. So we will see how fast they fill up as we go forward. Along the lines of Mecox and Sag, I'd like to make sure that everyone is aware that the town board in their meeting last week approved 5 years of funding, or the continuation of 5 years of funding for inlet management for both Mecox and Sag Ponds. So we are appreciative of that. The Sag Pond project is for just north of $570,000 for inlet openings through through the year ending 2026 and retroactive to January 1st of 2023. The Mecox openings are funded to, in the amount of just over $1,400,000, again through 2026 and retroactive to January 1st. The Lake Agawam Stormwater Management Award was also funded to, in the amount of $200,000. This funding going forward is vitally important to the trustees. We are grateful to the work on behalf of CPF, the Water Quality Committee, James Duryea for writing all of these grants, and working through that process in the past. And we look forward to successful inlet management going forward.
Right, absolutely. I'd like to thank everybody that was involved. It is important to the trustees and more important to the environment and to the people of the town of Southampton, people that live in these watersheds. It's imperative that there is proper management. It sounds like a lot of money, but it goes really fast, as you see, and I think that this is only the beginning. I think we're going to have to sit and take a look and dissect and make sure that we keep very good track of how this is spent, because a lot of what dictates this being spent are triggers that are out of our control. They're Mother Nature type triggers, and you have a couple of storm events that create some actions that have to be taken for the health of that waterway, and it's costly to get the contractors there to do what they have to do so that everything stays the way it's supposed to stay. So I think we're really going to have to, since it's a longer span of time, we're really going to have to take a look at this from a financial perspective and make sure that the board is in compliance with all of its obligations for CPF, and that, if there is a suspected shortfall in something because of some unforeseen consequence, that we get ahead of that, because it's imperative that these watersheds are managed on a proactive basis, consistently. Okay.
I do have one thing, Scott.
Sure.
Is there any update on the carp removal out of Mill Pond?
Well, that's no, because there's some more decision-making that has to happen relative to the last bid that was done. So there's one more step that we have to get through, to my knowledge, okay, in order for that to go to the next step.
Water lily management, the
Yes.
removal of water lily management, that bid has to be looked at and a decision made with that. And then an electrofishing survey
Okay.
is the next step.
Oh,
And
good.
then after that, predicated upon the results of the electrofishing survey, then there will be carp removal or not.
I think the survey is really important to give a good, pulse on the fish that are in there for us to manage it, so thank you.
Yep, sure.
Yep.
Just one more thing. I just want to remind the public that the endangered species season did begin on April 1st, and you will see symbolic fencing that's been applied, string fencing that's been put up on many, many, many beaches throughout the town. Just keep in mind that that fencing is put up in a predictive way, because that's where in past years we have had piping plovers nest. And as the season goes on and those birds do nest in areas, then we restrict that fencing. So we just ask you to please keep yourselves, your dogs, your vehicles out from behind that fencing until the plovers do nest, hatch, and fly away.
Thank you. Is there anything else before we go into exec? All right, that's it, then I'd like to make a motion to adjourn our general meeting. Go into exec, seconded by Trustee Warner, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, have a great afternoon, everybody.